Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Welcome to the Unprecedented Podcast. Here, we challenge the status quo and explore the unfiltered truths from the shadows of societies. We're not afraid to tackle what's often left unsaid. Each episode, we bring you thought-provoking conversations, revealing stories and expert insights that will make you rethink everything you thought you knew. Join us as we shine a light on the unseen. Join us as we shine a light on the unheard and the unimaginable, with special guests and unique perspectives. We dive deep into the topics that others shy away from. Here, we challenge the status quo. So, if you're ready to step into the conversation that everyone else is avoiding, hit subscribe and join us on this journey through the unprecedented.
Let's talk about it.
Good afternoon, folks. This is Pablo from Unprecedented Podcast, and I'm coming to you with a new episode. This is episode 2 of Unprecedented Podcast, and I'm coming to you with a sensitive topic because, we cover sensitive topics not for scandals, not to cause trouble, not to become enemies or offend anybody, but because they're topics that the mainstream media will not bring to you. They're topics that Fox News, CNN, ABC, the whole alphabet in mainstream media is not going to talk about it because it's not going to bring them ratings. It's things that are probably not a problem for them, not a problem for where they live, not a problem as far as their administrators or their CEOs are concerned, but they affect us as average, everyday Americans. And those are the issues that we want to bring to the surface. These are the issues that we want to bring to the forefront of our podcast. We don't want to be a podcast that just goes along to get along. We don't want to be a podcast that's just doing everything that everybody else is doing. In fact, we're a podcast that actually wants to talk about things and issues that either we went through, are going through, and are dealing with in our community, in our society, in our immediate families, friends, associates. Those are the things that we want to talk about and bring to the forefront. We don't just want to talk about things that are feel good, warm feeling that are gonna make people feel good and happy all the time. Because life is not about feeling happy and things going right all the time, right? And so we bring light to those subjects, those topics, because they're affecting people and they're affecting a lot of people. It's not something that, is isolated. It's not a topic or a subject that nobody's ever heard of. No, it's things that we're dealing with on a daily basis as a society, as a nation, and a lot of times get swept under the rug because it's not convenient to either the powers that be, the government, the mainstream media. So we as a podcast, Unprecedented, feel it our responsibility to bring light to these issues, and especially if they've touched us, loved ones, family, community, so on and so forth. So the subject, all that being said, because the subject that I'm going to bring today is the opioid crisis in America. And I know as soon as people hear that, they either do one of three things, right? They either shut down, not my business, I don't care. They either get uncomfortable because it is something that they're dealing with or have dealt with, either personally or somebody in their family, or they want to ignore it. They want to act like it doesn't exist, sweep it under the rug, move on with my life. Well, here on Unprecedented, we want to be as transparent, as truthful and honest as we can be. And I remember that we said we will have some live guests here, and today we have the privilege and honor of having one. This guest is a cousin of mine. His name is Edwin, and he is a fresh perspective and what it is like to live a life of having a drug or a chemical control your life, your everyday. And so without any further ado, here he is.
I am very grateful to be here. We're touching on this topic on addiction, family. I'm gonna come right through with it. I'm still in active addiction. I'm still struggling, but I know I'm gonna get up and dust off again. By all means, I want to give a shout to Unprecedented. This is a topic that I have a lot to talk about, but I'm just gonna give you somewhat and a little bit about my story and how it all became and where I'm at today. I want to take one quick moment of silence for the sick and suffering. Thank you, gentlemen, for allowing me to take that moment of silence for our missing brothers and the ones that are still sick and suffering. My name is Edwin. I've been coming with this run a very long time. I started at the age of 13, smoking cigarettes. I progressed to smoking marijuana. Then I started drinking liquor. The environment that I was in, I was hanging. I wanted to be part of the older group. I always admired the older group and the things that they were doing because to me it was an excitement. We're here to bring this topic because it's not just street drugs. The pharmaceuticals is the main drug dealer. They get you started, and guess what? Then you go to the lower grade street drugs. Because now you can't afford the pharmaceutical ones. I was 17 as far as I can remember when I first was introduced. Well, actually, I was just turning 18 on my 18th birthday to be exact. A lot of people say it's your choice, but guess what, family? It is your choice and it is your decision. But when you got a fine woman telling you, hey, you want some of this, and after that, it comes to goodies, And I was really digging this female, man, who she had a story herself, but unfortunately she wasn't able to share her story because she was cut short. And she was a wonderful person all around. But like I was saying, she introduced me to my first bag of heroin on my 18th birthday. She instructed me not to, she gave me, to be exact, family, she gave me an outfit to wear for my birthday. She gave me a big ass birthday card, and she gave me some money with the card and a bag of dope. She told me that we was gonna meet later on that night, and that we was hanging, and there was gonna be a big celebration for my birthday, and she said to make sure that when I did what I did with that bag of dope, not to consume too much. And she said, but I told her that I never did that I wanted her present, just, because I had somewhat of knowledge that, a lot of people died off of heroin back in the old days, and, I'm talking about when heroin was heroin, quote unquote, which is an opiate that comes from a poppy seed, and but anyhow, and when it's mixed with all those chemicals, but there's none of that today. All we getting is a little surprise in a bag, whatever it is that you do by choice, whether you use a needle or whether you're snorting or whether you're smoking it. Some people smoke it. It's very, very scary, and like being in active use again. I am very skeptical every other day that I pick up a bag of dope as we may say, brown these days, because all that is, family, in case you didn't know, it's fentanyl camouflage with some homemade product to to blend in to make it look like it's brown and like the little tan color that real heroin has. But if you've been an addict, from way back in the days, or you did use back in those days and you no longer use today, more power to you. But if you do remember, there was only three colors when it came to the dope game, heroin. The dope was either China White, which was something that was the most potent. It was the most potent heroin out in the market, China White. And China White was, a lot of people was ODing on China White. You know what? Like in recovery, right? It comes to a point in recovery where we're getting the knowledge, from the 12 steps, and as you're being schooled about how to work the steps of recovery. It states, I don't quite remember on what step it is that it tells us where it's just the insanity, right, of this disease, right, that it's just, it doesn't cease to stop. You were just saying right now about the 5-star, right? Listen, wherever there is heroin, quote unquote, right, because it's not heroin, took somebody out. John Bravo just fell out over there with that dope. Manito got down there, and they were like, "Yo, who got that?" Manito on A Street got it. Now, next thing you know, the police is looking for Manito because they just put him on. I believe the charge is death by delivery, something like that. But anyhow, here in Massachusetts, it's very rare that they charge somebody with it, but they do. They'll bring charges up. You're gonna get a smack out of it. Probably get a manslaughter bid. You know what I'm saying? Probably a manslaughter. Anyway, that's not the moral story here, but that's the the insanity of this disease. That whoever got the most strongest and the most lethalist, who got it? Like when I was in recovery, the longest I had in recovery was when I had 6 years under my belt. And when I had them 6 years, I did it, just through, I wasn't going to meetings, I wasn't doing none of that, but, I was keeping myself at bay, I was keeping myself busy by working and stuff like that, but I wasn't doing the footwork, I wasn't going to meetings, I wasn't, doing the 12 steps, I didn't have a sponsor, so, and then, when, actually one of my children's mother partner, like we became acquainted, and this guy is, he's a very good dude, man. And he was like, man, listen, man, why don't you come to a meeting with me one day? Be like, yo, it's like, you know what I'm saying, when you go to like, this is what happens all the time. Look, I did it plenty of times. We go to detox. We do the 7 to 10 days in the detox, and after that we might go to a holding for 30 days, if that. But once you're out of the detox, 7 to 10 days, that's not enough time. So what's gonna happen? You're gonna be like, damn, man, I wonder if Flacco down the street still got something, man. Your mind start playing tricks on you and telling you, yo, just go, do a couple of hits, you know what I'm saying? Just wrap the bag up and, save it for like, a couple of days after. But that's not what's gonna happen. So, like I was saying, I didn't do, I wasn't doing no recovery phases or nothing like that those 6 years, but I managed to keep up 6 years. And when I finally broke the cycle of being sober for those 6 years, that's when I went overboard with my addiction to the heroin. Um, I wanna, put out there that, we're really family here. No matter what, we're blood, we share the same blood. And Pablo is a gentleman that, I want to say that I commend him because Pablo is a recovering addict himself, and Pablo is part of the Boston Public Health Commission. Pablo is working with addicts today.
That's nice.
And Pablo has a story to tell too, because Pablo has recovery time, but guess what? Recovery time doesn't mean that you don't have to keep doing recovery. You know what I'm saying? You still got to put in some meetings. But Pablo works with the addicts. Pablo's helping the community nowadays. He's working with the addicts to get them places, and it's all about you wanting that help. If you don't want it, then you're not gonna get it. If you want it and you're gonna put in your part, then it will work. If you don't put in the footwork, it won't work. And I know from experience, because as many as times that I was told when I gave recovery a try, the recovery way, doing meetings, doing doing 12 steps, and going to commitments. And when I was given that opportunity to share, every time I went somewhere, especially to an institution such as detoxes, hospitals, I didn't get to, commitments are allowed, depending on your record and how long it's been that you've been out of jail. You can go back to a jail and bring a commitment to a jail, So I was, I was part of commitments at detoxes and hospitals, and I'll tell you what, it's the best feeling ever, family. Having recovery time is the best feeling ever, but I just want to, commend my brother and commend Pablo for, what they're doing. I know this is going to hit because this is a topic, and this is something that, although they're trying to, put the pieces to the puzzle together, they're not doing, they're not doing it severely enough to, place people in places where they need to be. Arresting addicts is not gonna, what you're gonna do, all you're gonna do is put them on pause for a little bit. You arrest them for a little bag of dope, they go in, the judge cuts them loose in like 30 days, they come right back out. So, because most addicts, you're gonna probably the cop will most likely end up catching them either copping dope or probably coming from copping dope, and all he has on him is that personal use. What the judge is gonna do? It comes to a point where certain judges, like, they really like concerned with the community, and they just telling people that are coming through their courtrooms consecutively. The judge gonna be like, you know what, you need help. Since you don't want to go on your own, I'm sending you to Bridgewater for 30 days. From there, I'm going to put you on a probationary period where you got to complete a program. And then when you complete that program, then we'll start the process and we'll go from there. And they came out with drug court. They came out with, inpatient programs. But a lot of programs got cut from the funds to keep them up. Look, a lot of detoxes got shut down. There's but so many detoxes here in this part of Massachusetts. They had the indoor centers where multiple altercations came out, people getting stabbed in the center. I myself, whenever I used to like to cop my dope, and I go use indoors, and if I did use outside, it would be somewhere in, secret, that nobody see me, and if I was accompanied by somebody, just in case something went wrong, but I will always cap my syringe and take it with me, and I dispose of it either if there was, if I was near one of those syringes dispensers, I would throw it in there, or I would break the tip off and I'd throw it in the trash. But you know what? Yeah, I wanna share that. At one point, that's gonna hit home with these people, man. Because you know what? It hit home with me, even though I've not done that. I throw a needle in the street or on the sidewalk or near a playground or anything like that. Because one day I was with my son, my little man, and we was right here on Ziegler, and we was walking by the park, and he happens to see two syringes on the floor, and he goes, "Poppy, look, those are needles." And I was like, "Don't touch them. Like, if you ever see that and you're not with one of us, you let somebody know and let them pick it up. You don't touch that, okay? Because if that thing doesn't have its cap and it still has a needle on it." And he's like, "Wow, Poppy, that's foul. Why are they gonna drop that there?" And he's like, "You're gonna put it in the trash?" And I was like, "Yeah, Poppy, I'm gonna put it in the trash." So I grabbed a napkin and I grabbed the two needles and I threw it in the trash, Well, family, I just want to share that, throughout this battle with addiction, where I've been, where I'm at. I told you where I've been. I've been through incarcerations. I've been through detoxes. I've been through, many, many, many incarcerations, and I've had two encounters. Well, actually, I had one encounter where I seen death in the eyes. Two other occasions, I was close to dying. I was in ICU the first time 9 days, and then the second time for 6 days. As a result, from being in ICU was because throughout the use of alcohol, my esophagus, my varices are ruptured from drinking alcohol, and my varices were ruptured so bad that I was internally bleeding, and ultimately I just was throwing up blood that was coming out of my varices to my esophagus. When I did have the experience where I seen death in the eyes, family, I tell you what, I was screaming in the back. I was just kept screaming because I just kept hearing voices. Like, I hear my mother's voice, I hear my son's voice, and I'm like gurgling because somebody allegedly was pouring water in my face, to my knowledge, but there was nobody there pouring no water in my face. I was in the bathroom by myself. My family was thinking that I was using the freaking toilet doing number 2, and guess what? I was on the floor, dead, battling with death. And family, look, goosebumps, this is reality. My brother, who I love to death, my younger brother, the last thing I heard was, "Bro, are you fucking serious right now, bro? You serious? You gonna do this motherfucking how many more times?" And that's when I fucking kicked death in the face somewhat. Or I don't know if he came and snatched him up by the neck. His voice just, I don't know, man, tell this person to let me go, man.
Let's talk about it.
I happen to be someone who is somewhat of an authority on the opioid and addiction crisis in America specifically, right? Because I am an American, born and raised in New York, came to Massachusetts in 1992. My children, grandchildren were all born here. And I happen to be a survivor of the opioid and addiction crisis in America. I am an ex-addict in long-term recovery. And what that means is, for a long time, I hadn't found it necessary to put a chemical, a liquid, a smoke, a vape, or any of those things into my system to feel good, to feel right, to live, to operate, to conduct my business. I haven't found it necessary to do any of those things for a long time now. But that doesn't mean that the crisis has not gotten worse because I got better. No, On the contrary, it has gotten worse. And if you look around the nation, just the continental U.S., we are facing record overdoses. We are facing record deaths from opioid overdoses. We are facing record numbers of young people being addicted to some substance, chemical, or something that is outside of themselves, right? That they need to ingest, drink, smoke, inhale, vape, whatever it is you administer, whatever way they administer the chemical, they need it. And it's called an addiction, right? When you need to ingest, digest, inject anything to survive, to function, it's an addiction. And I want to tell you that my perspective of addiction is because of the years that I have in and around addiction, having overcome it, learning from it, going back to school to get certifications and degrees in it. I've learned one thing, that addiction is much more than a chemical, right? Because people go into a casino and bet their whole life savings and walk out broke, without a place to live, left their children and their wives without a place to live, spouses. They embezzle money from their jobs. They embezzle money from their 401k, their children's savings, whatever have you. They've done things that are unimaginable to the person who has never suffered from an addiction. So when I speak about addiction, I'm speaking about everything that a person has to do. They have lost their freedom of choice. They don't have the will to stop doing it. That's what I mean when I say addiction. So, of course, we have the obvious things that we've been hearing about for decades in this country, whether it's the marijuana, whether it's the pills, the alcohol, the heroin, the cocaine. But there is much more to addiction than just those chemicals that we've heard of all our lives, whether it's been news, movies, our society, our neighborhoods, whatever. So there's much more to it. And so the opioid epidemic is not slowing down, and it's gotten worse. I know personally from experience, again, having overcome addiction, having been involved and around and in and out of working with addicts in addiction facilities, to this very day, I know for a fact from my research, from my reading, from just being in conferences and meetings and training, that the problem is not getting any better. It's actually getting worse. We have more than one generation now dealing with addiction. Whereas when I was a boy, late 70s, all throughout the 80s, 90s, it was basically, if somebody in the family or in the community was dealing with addiction, it was basically just one person in the family. It was one generation that got affected, and everybody else moved on with their lives. Whether the addict got help, whether the addict, succumbed to their addiction, because that is a reality. People die from using drugs on a daily basis. It's just a matter of life in our society, and a lot of us have gotten accustomed. Me personally, having lived through it, worked in the field of addiction and opioids and helping people to overcome it, I've seen so many deaths. I've witnessed them. I've responded to them. I've gone to funerals. So it's a reality for me, whereas it doesn't surprise me. I'm not shocked by it. because I've been exposed to it for a number of years. But it was that generation, right? Let's say whatever, the guys that came back from Vietnam, somebody in the neighborhood, a few people here and there. But it wasn't as rampant as it is right now, and it didn't affect more than one generation like it is now. Right now, opioid addiction in our country is a generational thing. I mean, it's gone from in some instances, from grandmothers to granddaughters and everybody in between, grandfathers to grandchildren, and again, everybody in between. So it's not stopping at one generation, and it's killing off actually generations of our youth and our population. And I want to bring light to the fact that America is turned a corner when it comes to opioid addiction, where opioid and any other drug, right, where it's all criminalized. So when I was growing up, people had their lives destroyed from a marijuana charge, a regular simple drug charge, whether it was selling, possession, distributing. People's lives were destroyed because of marijuana, drugs, anything that was illegal, illicit. People went to jail. People had their lives destroyed because in some instances there was divorces, there was families broken, torn apart. Whoever the convict was who got caught and had charges now had a felony that followed them, for the rest of their lives, which was the case with me personally. I had to do a lot of work in repairing my life, in repairing my good standing in my communities, to become a respectable and productive member of our society, to be accepted. And in some instances, I'm still not accepted, and people look down upon me because of my past and my criminal history, which is not my problem anymore. I've learned to not care what people think and moved on. But I say all that to say that now America has become the biggest drug dealer in the world. When we had the Reagan era, just say no, all the way to the war against drugs and everything in between, now America has become the biggest drug dealer in the world. And how? You might ask? Well, I'm glad you did, because I have the answer. America, and it's a two-pronged issue. It is a two-pronged explanation because it's a two-pronged issue. Here's what happened. America legalized a lot of illicit drugs that were illegal when I was a boy growing up in America, like marijuana. Methadone has been around for a long time, but it is also a drug. And all people do with methadone is they switch one drug for the other. You switch off of heroin to get onto methadone, but you're on that for the rest of your lives. And yes, folks, most people, are a huge percentage of people who are on any medically assisted treatment from opioids are hooked for the rest of their lives. So don't let the media, don't let the government, don't let the pharmaceuticals lie and put one over your head. Nobody gets off of them. They're simply switching from one drug to another. And they're buying from a different drug dealer, which is the government. And the reason I say the government is because these agencies, pharmaceuticals, are all sanctioned. All these drug trials, all these medically assisted drugs that are available right now. Methadone has been around since World War II. That was one of the first ones that I can remember and have studied and know personally. But then there's Suboxone, there's Sublocade, there's all these perks, oxys, and everything in between that are derivatives of the actual original drug.
Let's talk about it.
Welcome to the Unprecedented Podcast. Here, we challenge the status quo and explore the unfiltered truths from the shadows of societies. We're not afraid to tackle what's often left unsaid. Each episode, we bring you thought-provoking conversations, revealing stories and expert insights that will make you rethink everything you thought you knew. Join us as we shine a light on the unseen. Join us as we shine a light on the unheard and the unimaginable, with special guests and unique perspectives. We dive deep into the topics that others shy away from. Here, we challenge the status quo. So, if you're ready to step into the conversation that everyone else is avoiding, hit subscribe and join us on this journey through the unprecedented.
Let's talk about it.